Welcome back to On Record PR. We are your hosts, Jennifer Simpson, Carr, and Gina Rubel. Gina, we are officially in the throes of conference season.
Yes, we are.
Since September, we've attended either one of us or both of us together SIBF, Whipple, LMA Northeast. Most recently, you spoke at the 2025 Brand Reputation Summit in Philadelphia. And next week, you and several of our incredible team members are headed to LMA's Tech West by Southwest in Denver. Sadly, I cannot attend, but we have you, Kim Miller, Mahalet Ropar, Kyla Thompson from our team, and then we're very lucky to be able to connect with Deb Ruffins and Mark BC of our international faculty while we're out there.
I can't wait to see everyone. And Jen, I'm sorry you're going to be on vacation
I
in the
know.
islands. I hope you have a wonderful time. And I promise we will represent the team well.
Yes. Well, I'm sure you'll have a great time. I know Jasmine, Emmy, and all of the amazing LMA members work very hard to put on this conference in its second year. And I had a great time last year. So I'm excited to see what the team brings back. But today we are talking about the 2025 Brand Reputation Summit that you had the chance to attend and speak at. I'm curious, what is it? How was it? And let's dive into it.
It's an incredible event. The summit focuses on managing corporate reputation in the digital age with topics including crisis management, the role of AI, and authentic storytelling. Now, while this particular summit is geared towards the healthcare, uh, pharma, and biotech, so life sciences, uh, there were so many incredible takeaways. And I have to tell you, Jen, I saw people from the comms community that I haven't seen in years. So it was just great to be there. And a shout out to Patrice Tanaka, who was also on our podcast, our first season, um, who invited me and introduced me to Mark, who runs the program. So, the conversations when, we talked about AI, social media transparency, and how they all are colliding at once now. And these are much like the conversations we've been having for our clients for years. And, it's no longer managing a single channel or message at a time. It's about understanding that everything is interconnected. And that's what the main focus of these conversations was about.
So that's interesting. You shared a recap with the team. Something that I really appreciate about our team is that when we attend these conferences, we not only attend as a member of the agency, but as an extension of our clients' team. So we are always taking diligent notes, bringing back takeaways and insights that we can share not only amongst ourselves, but with our incredible clients. So, in your recap, you shared a few key data points that really struck me, and one I want to dive into today. A couple to note: 93% of consumers research online before purchasing. Not surprising to us. We talk about this all the time with our law firm clients. You're winning and losing business every day based on what people are finding about you online. Same goes with talent. 90% of people say that reviews influence their decisions. Again, no surprise. We get a lot of calls from law firms and law firms clients saying, we've received a negative review or we're being tagged with a negative review. How do we respond? So we know they're important. And then 69% of consumers trust influencers more than brand advertising. And I think that's a really interesting point because today, sorry, not today, our next episode is about employee advocacy and that tie between how the trust of an individual is even greater than that of a brand. But the one data point that really stood out to me from what you shared and what I want to talk about today is that 95% of decisions are driven by emotion. We have that conversation all the time. I know that law firm leaders often communicate to us that their audience purely use rationale, right? Their legal services buying decision is about logic, it's about credentials. we not only see this play out in conversations, we see it in how many approach writing, how their bios are written, right? All their credentials, their education, how pitch decks are written in the first person, and again, all about the firm or the attorney. But what information you shared actually supports that decision makers, even in this professional context of law firms and legal decision makers, are still people.
Yes. And before I forget, Jen, I want to give a shout out to Michael Smith, who is the managing director for corporate communications at Axe Retirement Life Communities. I've known Michael for years, and he was the one who shared all of the stats. So I want to be mindful of that, and just thank him. But the what it was really taking those stats and saying, well, why does this matter to our audience, right? And that idea of emotion was so important. And so, for example, when we're writing a bio for an attorney, the bios are usually like, I did this and I did this and I went to this university and I am, I'm licensed to practice law in these states, but that never speaks to the what's in it for me of the reader. Like why do clients trust brands and people that make them feel something safe, confident, inspired, aligned with their values? Why do they make choices based on the emotion? It's because they want to know that you can help them with their challenges. If it's a GC hiring outside counsel or a partner choosing a communications advisor, people want to feel understood and reassured because they're saying, I trust you to do this work. And as a result, by trusting you, you are an extension of me. And that's that emotional connection that has to be built intentionally through storytelling and transparency and consistency. I talked a lot about consistency when I spoke at this conference. And it's not about perfection, it's about credibility. And especially as these AI systems are now shaping what people see and believe about a firm and a brand, it really needs to be mindful of the what's in it for the recipient. So we're seeing generative AI creating or generating generative AI generating what a what a play on words, right? Their search results are pulling in all kinds of content, and that's a big risk if the firm brand isn't proactively managing what's online. So if they haven't updated their website or bios or practice descriptions for law firms, their news coverage, old articles, AI may be pulling in information that doesn't respect their current positioning. And that's another key point that came out of this conference. And again, it wasn't something I said, it was something that one of the women I met, Angela Esposito, who talked about that, and brilliant young PhD who was just amazing to hear from.
So you brought up something I want to touch on quickly, which is I trust you to be an extension of me or of my team. And it made me think of one of the GCs on the panel at the LMA annual conference in San Diego, who said, when I want to hire people that if I'm not on the phone, if I'm not on the Zoom call, if I'm not in the room, I trust you to act in the way that I would want you to act. I want you to be respectful of other counsel. I want you to speak with integrity. And so you just bring up such an interesting point that we've heard from GCs, which is they want to hire people they trust to act the same way when they're not present as they would when they're there.
Well, and it's
Um,
no different than why our clients hire us.
right, right. So you talked about AI in this intersection, kind of this inflection point that we've hit in this new environment. It sounds like reputation management, from what you're saying, also equals content management. So firms need to make sure they're auditing their digital footprint regularly, bios, case studies, press mentions. I can't tell you how many times a firm will contact us, potentially work with them. Oftentimes, I'm their first point of contact. And of course, I do my diligence and I see that the latest news and articles is 18 months old, right? So I hear what you're saying and we see it play out every day. Um, and it sounds like they need to review their sites almost daily to make sure that what they're saying online reflects who they are today.
You're going to give everybody a heart attack. Uh, um, and yes, they do need to be reviewing it. I don't know about daily, Jen.
Okay.
But no, I'm teasing you. But
I know.
reputation management does equal content management, and we're being asked to audit client sites for the same reason, and we're auditing our own site for that reason because those
Mhm.
touch points all feed into how AI and by extension the public perceives their credibility and our credibility. And that perception drives emotion. And then when people see the consistency and authenticity, then they trust you. So when they see, but on the other side of that, when they see outdated, fragmented, or overly polished content, they also hesitate. So it's important to be mindful. And this even goes down to, and what Michael talked a lot about was, even review sites. And for law firms, that includes if they're putting jobs on Indeed and other platforms, other job platforms, what are people saying about them about working there? And
Mhm.
are they managing that? So that's why one of my favorite takeaways from the summit was that AI should be treated as a tool, not a voice. And we've been saying that forever. It can help us communicate more efficiently, but it can't replace human judgment and empathy. It just can't. Maybe down the road it will, but right now it doesn't. And brands that will thrive in this AI driven age are those that use technologies to enhance that connection, but not try to replace it. And that really means leading with values, with your firm's core values, being transparent about how we use AI and engaging with those communities in real human ways. So commenting on LinkedIn, and a lot of the speakers talked about comments on things like LinkedIn. And one was Brandy Boatner, who she had spoken at LMA before, and the two of us were like, I know you, I know you. She spoke at one of the regional or local events. I think it was in Philly, and talked a lot about um, how comments in social are so important. So when I say social for our professional listeners, I'm talking about commenting on LinkedIn and not just putting thank you. Really having an engagement there and a conversation there. And Angela Esposito talked about that too. There's just so much listeners can be doing to enhance that trust.
So let's pause here for a message from our sponsor. And when we get back, let's talk through a couple of key takeaways that our listeners can jump in to right away to enhance that trust online and make sure that they are taking actionable steps away from our conversation.
This episode is brought to you by Furia Rubel Communications, a public relations and marketing agency serving law firms and businesses worldwide. With an expert team positioned throughout the U.S. and supported by an international faculty, Furia Rubel enhances our clients' brands through integrated communications by providing expert guidance in crisis management and high-profile litigation, protecting brand and reputation, and supporting internal marketing teams. To learn more, visit furiarubel.com.
Okay, Gina, we're back from our sponsor message. So we've talked a lot about trust, authenticity, and building that online in an age where everyone is really going to a digital place first to get their information. Can you summarize your key takeaways from this event for our listeners?
There are a few. One thing I do want to mention is that There's a rise in trust in smaller, more authentic voices, and that includes nano-influencers, like those people with 500 to 10,000 followers, and really how they influence your core audience. So that's something to be mindful of. Because when leaders and subject matter experts show up consistently online, and like I said, I talked a lot about consistency, and share authentic insights rather than like that polished marketing audience response, they're building emotional credibility. So that was one of the key takeaways. Some others, Jen, are to audit your online presence. We've talked about that. It's important. That includes websites, bios, and thought leadership, and anything that would be considered trustworthy information. It includes leading with authenticity and leading by example through storytelling and transparency, which are those emotional connectors. One was the use of AI ethically and thoughtfully. It's a tool like any other tool. Like back in the day when those of us who remember the implementation of email in the use of communications, it's another tool. Doesn't replace human relationships. And you should never use anything that is a first draft that's been generated by a generative AI large language model. Empower your people. Your partners, associates, and team members are your most credible influencers. And frankly, they also partners to the law firm partners listening to this, you need to lead by example. I cannot stress that enough. And that goes for, we have clients where the managing partner is just as engaged, and that matters when the managing partner is sharing wins for their teammates. And then balancing innovation with integrity, because in an age of rapid technological change, trust is the true differentiator. And people are still going to do business with those they know, like, and trust. Reputation today isn't just about being visible, it's about being believable.
Yeah, it's a great point, and you bring up some things that we've been talking about internally, like how quick and easy it is for many of us to identify content that's been written, that's been generated by a tool, right? There are certain words, phrases, punctuation. So it is becoming more and more common for people, from my perspective, to see something that looks like it's been AI generated and stop reading it and move on. So something for our listeners to take away. And also to get back to your earlier point in the conversation, believability starts with emotion. If we think about the fact that 95% of decisions are emotional, then we as communicators and leaders have a responsibility to connect with that humanity. We always say humanized content online performs so much better than I published this article, I won an award. What is the human side of what it is that you are doing every day? And so whether people are using, AI to speed up their, create efficiency or speed up their work, whether you're talking about content strategy, I think this all comes back to storytelling. Good old fashioned, how do we tell a story that's going to connect with another human?
And Jen, before I forget, if anybody is interested in looking into future brand reputation summits, it's put on by Mark Coulter, Coulter, of Curtis and Coulter. So I just wanted to share that because I hadn't mentioned that earlier. And it's just, we're going to be talking about all of these things as we move forward. There was so much to be learned, and it's another benefit of going to conferences outside of just the legal industry. A lot of people there talked about inbound, and that's why we send our team members, Leslie and Izzy, regularly to Inbound and other digital conferences, because this ties back to what I said earlier about how it's all interwoven. We're back to a fully integrated communications world, and we're back out of those silos.
Yeah, this has been a really interesting conversation. I've really enjoyed the past many weeks because things are changing quickly and our team is bringing back so many new insights, and it's such a great opportunity for us to have a weekly touch point to stay up to date on these and also share what we know with our listeners. So thank you for sharing the recap of this great summit. Thank you to our listeners for joining us. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. Share your favorite episodes with your friends and colleagues. We are always talking about the latest news, insights, and topics that matter most to law firm leaders. Next week, Gina and I will be back to discuss employee advocacy, which is a newer topic to our show, but Gina and I have been talking about it for at least a decade. So please tune in next week and we'll see you then. Thanks, Gina.
Thank you, Jen.
On Record PR is produced by Jennifer Simpson Carr and Matt Henderson, with support from the team at Rubel Communications. This episode is edited by Isabel Horan and Christian Yamula. Visit www.onrecordpr.com for resources and more information.